Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and thank you for joining us for our Soul Talk Sunday. As you can tell, background's a little bit different, but we thought we'd change it up a little bit for at least the Soul Talk Sunday. We've got some JR heels here, so come join us and check out what we've got for you, and we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about it. So, our very first Soul Talk Sunday episode, we talked about JR Souls mainly. We did mention and talk about the heels a little bit, but I thought I'd make a short video talking about the heels in particular. JR leather is obviously, everyone knows, is the highest quality leather you can find for leather soles. There are a lot of other brands out there that do phenomenal work as well, but from what we've been seeing and what we've been doing for this long, JR definitely keeps taking the upper hand on just about everything. But their combination heels that they have, and when we say combo or combination heels, that means that they are a combination of leather and rubber. That's usually what the combo heels are. That way you're able to have a longer duration of wear time on it. Obviously, there are other options like full rubber or full leather. Typically, when you go through us and a number of other great cobblers out there, they'll do full leather JR heels because it lasts longer. Now, JR leather, John Rennenbach, they tend to oak bark tan their leather. It takes a longer period of time to do it, but during that process, what happens is the pore structure becomes a little bit tighter, allowing that leather to tighten up and become a little more durable. Holds up longer for impact and, getting worn down, just grinding up against the pavement, hardwood floors, whatever you're on. So that's a great thing from the JR leather side. Also, the fact that when the pore structure becomes a little bit tighter, it doesn't take on any moisture or minerals from water when you're walking outside in slushy weather or you walk through a puddle on accident or something. So definitely that's one of the main reasons why oak bark tanning in particular is one of the best things, and JR leather has got that down. They've been doing this for a very long time. Now, for those of you who don't know too much about the heels for JR leather, I have a few variants here that are available for us here in North America. Obviously, there are a few versions that may be available in Europe and even Asia, but that's what a lot of companies do. We only get certain things in certain parts of the world. But I'm going to talk about the ones that I know for a fact we have here in the US and North America and Canada. I believe most everybody in Canada has access to at least these ones here. So with a combination heel, we'll start out by explaining it. As you can tell, right there, that rubber's kind of at a slant, and that's normal. That actually is supposed to go on the outside of the heel. It doesn't have to be a straight cut or anything like that. A combination heel is usually like that a lot of times, just because your first point of impact is on that outside edge, so the rubber is going to hold up for a longer period of time. Doesn't mean that necessarily that the leather is going to wear out too quickly. With JR leather, it seems to hold up about the same as the rubber, but the rubber also acts as a little bit of a grip aspect. Sorry, I can't talk right now, but grip aspect. So because you're taking that step on the heel, imagine if you had leather or metal on there. That's why there's something called V cleats. They're also nicknamed suicide heels. We'll talk about those in the near future, but for the time being, we just want to talk about the JR combination heels. Now, JR, as you can see, we've got a few variants. I've got them all over the place and stuff. This one right here, the first one I showed you, this is kind of the basic, the original, the classic, kind of the standard of them all. This one right here comes in at 6 millimeters, so it's a good thickness, not too thin, but it's also not too thick either. And it's just kind of just a half slant or a quarter slant or whatever you want to call it, like that. It's got a little bit of ribbing right there in the heel, and so it's going to hold up very nicely when it comes to gripping. Eventually, once that little tread wears out, that rubber is still going to grip very well. This here, it seems like they definitely use their kind of off-branded, or if they make their own rubber from JR. I don't know those details exactly, unfortunately, but it holds up very well on these ones. They do have another version that's similar to it. This is an 8 millimeter version, so a little bit thicker. I think we might have accidentally got these by mistake, but I'm kind of excited that we did, because we like having options at our shop. We don't want to just have one or two options and that's it. We like variants and varieties and different options and alternatives and all that kind of stuff. But these heels are very similar. As you can tell, one is bigger than the other. That's normal. There are different sizes. This one here is a size 4. This one's a size 3. So it's kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it necessarily, but they'll just fit a number of different heel styles. I mean, I can't say that this one's going to fit size 8 to 12 and this one's going to fit size 12 to 15 or whatever. Different heel bases, different heel sizes. It's just great to have different options always to be able to do that. So that's the classic there. The next one we'll talk about, everyone loves this one, we love it as well, the Dovetail style. As you can tell, it's a little bit nicer looking, a little more elegant, you know, dressy-like. Same thing, it's a bit of a slant and it looks like a bit of a puzzle piece. That's that dovetail feature about it. This one obviously does not have any kind of traction on that rubber heel. Again, this one's supposed to be a little bit more elegant and presentable. Obviously, not everyone's going to see the bottom of your heels, but if you're somebody that likes to kick up your feet every now and then at a cigar lounge or at the office or wherever you may be, why not have that little fine touch of that dovetail heel and it stands out? I mean, when somebody sees a dovetail heel on a pair of shoes, their first thought is quality. That's the first thought. Every time I see a pair of shoes come in here, if I don't even see them up close, I see them from a distance and I see that dovetail, that's my first thought. Ooh, I see something that might be of good quality. Let me take a closer look. So definitely a great feature to have a dovetail heel. If you have a nice quality pair of shoes, it really shows that's what it is. This one is 8mm as well. So it's a bit on the thicker side. From what I can understand here in North America, at least, I don't know how it is in Asia and Europe, but that's the only one that we can get. We obviously can get different sizes of them, but the thickness is 8mm. So that saying that at 8mm, it's thicker, obviously. It doesn't mean that it's going to lift you up higher unless you request that. But if you bring in a pair of shoes and say, okay, I want JR soles with JR dovetail heels or the classic at the 8mm mark and stuff like that, we could definitely do that for you. But what happens during that process is we have to sand down that heel base a little bit and make sure it's leveled out, because otherwise the pitch gets all wonky and then, you know, you might be standing up too high or anything. Now, again, if you're wanting to be a little bit taller, you have to mention that, and we just still have to sand it down to make sure the pitch is right, because I'll just grab a sample. There we go. Because this one right here, there's typically a shank in here, and even if there is no shank, that's not going to feel comfortable if that heel has got like this weird like pitched angle where everything's just sitting up way too high at the very end. Kind of like, let me grab this one right here. Kind of like that right there, and you're just balancing on the very edge of this heel right there. I'll show this one a little bit later, a little more details about it, but that's what has to be done. That's why it tends to come in at a premium cost also, compared wise. It's not just the material cost, it's everything that goes into the recrafting or the repair aspect of it. It takes extra steps. JR leather and the rubbers that they use on all their combination heels do take a little bit longer to sand out. We still want to make sure that they're presentable, we finish them out and everything, but that doesn't include the fact that we still have to make sure it's all leveled. Otherwise, if we just pull off your old heel, slap that new one on, it's not going to feel right. And we can do it in some cases with the 6mm. That's why this one comes in a little bit cheaper, but the 8mm ones, they definitely take a little bit more work, in other words. There are additional features that a number of cobblers will do as well, and we'll talk about that in a second. Last heel I'd like to mention from the JR line, this one is actually one that they did together with Vibram. That one right there. Now obviously it's not quite as dressy looking as this one, but from what I've been messing around with these, and I've done a few pairs here in the past week, I've done a few pairs with this one, and I've done a few pairs with this one, as well as this one and this one. And in the last 2 weeks, I've done all 4 of them. And there's a bit of a difference I've noticed, that the one with the Vibram material, it does seem to be a little bit more durable. It's harder to grind. And when I say durable, I'm able to identify that by when I'm sanding and grinding off the edges to make sure that it's smooth and flush with the heel block and the rest of the shoe. I could tell a huge difference that this one does take a little more effort to sand, and they don't say exactly which Vibram material it is, but from what I can understand from what I've done and used over the years, it's very similar to Vibram's SBR material. The SBR material is what they use on their traditional heavier lug pattern soles, the ones that they use for construction work, outdoor use, and everything like that. And that's really what it seems like they used on here. Obviously, there's not too much grip on there either. It's a little bit on the smoother side. So it's still going to grip us because it's rubber, but it's not like this one here. But they did that obviously because you can't put like a heavy lug pattern on that right there. It's going to look kind of wonky if you have an elegant dress pair of shoes. So definitely nice feature that they made sure to keep that nice and smooth. Although there are a few models, I actually have a pair in that we're doing something interesting with, and it'd be kind of cool to have that. Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second, but obviously it's not quite as dressy or elegant looking as the Dovetail, but it's still a combination heel. It's a lot dressier looking and nicer looking than just a strict rubber heel. So, you know, that's definitely one of those things. I've been liking this heel quite a bit, but it's your own decision. 8mm as well on this one, so we got to make sure to adjust and compensate for that on that one. Now we start getting into the, I guess, more complicating side of things. I've got a pair of Allen Edmonds here. I did a while ago. They were supposed to be a sample piece, so don't judge. They have been beaten up and torn apart. They've been knocked around, and I just can't keep up anymore with keeping up the appearance of it, so I'm actually going to start finally wearing them. But I did a Dovetail heel a while ago here. Again, as you can tell, it's been worn out numerous times and stuff, just getting scraped around the table, taken to events and all sorts of things. But as you can see, there are nails here. They're nice little decorative brass nails. I actually made these ones stick out on purpose so they're a little bit more noticeable. I had a couple of cobblers that saw that and they're like, well, why didn't you put the nails a little bit deeper? I wanted them to stick out because this was just a display piece. This wasn't meant to be noticeable, meant to be worn, at least not yet. Now I'm probably going to have to start wearing them. But anyways, these brass nails, they serve a few main aspects and features to it. One, obviously they're decorative. They add a little bit of durability because after all it is metal. But the other thing that it really actually does is, I've noticed on these Dovetail ones especially, and even the classic ones right here, the type of rubber that JR uses, it's kind of odd, but these leather pieces, they have a tendency to peel off semi-easily, I guess you can say. They quite literally peel off, because if you look at it from the side here, there is the rubber piece that's all one solid piece all the way across here and underneath the leather. And on top of the leather, on top of the rubber is where the leather is glued onto it, which is normal and typical in a combination heel. You usually have, either it's like a puzzle piece going together where it's leather and rubber and they just hold together temporarily until we finally secure it to a pair of shoes. But on these ones, they laid it over top because it's going to be more durable that way. But the dilemma is whatever rubber they're using, and obviously I don't know what it is. I haven't found a listing for it or found any information about that. Whatever rubber they're using, it seems to be a little bit more grippy, which is great. But the problem is trying to adhere something to that ends up becoming a bit of an issue. In other words, that leather can end up peeling off a little more easily. I have stuck these into the oven before, thinking that that's what I usually do before I stick the top lift heel onto a pair of shoes, and it heats it up and activates the adhesive. Well, the problem is it deactivates the adhesive for the leather holding onto the rubber, and so it becomes a little bit of a problem. So at this point now I had to fine tune it and do a little bit of a different way where I use heat guns and so on and so on, but that's other details, in other words. But that's one of the reasons why, at least for us, I'm always going to run nails in there. If you request, please don't put in nails. I'll do it, but it's kind of at your own, I don't want to say risk, but just giving you a heads up. Sorry, it's after hours here, and people are still coming up to the door, so I have to go unlock it and figure what they need exactly. But where was I? Oh, so yeah, it's just kind of as a heads up that if you catch that corner there, it can peel up. I mean, that's normal. If that ever happens to you, if we did the work, we'll gladly touch it up and try to re-glue it if you save that piece. But the thing is, again, we try to run the nails in there, and obviously they'll be hammered down a little bit deeper. And the other thing is also it kind of gives a little bit of extra like security, and it looks nice. It looks really nice. I mean, for me at least, I like the appearance, I like the look. We've got some silver ones too, so you don't have to do gold, which are technically a brass, but they're a gold color. But typically brass tends to hold up a little bit better. It will hold up better as far as resisting elements, in other words. Durability wise, technically the other ones that are like a steel type material, they're going to rust up a tad bit, but they're going to be harder. That's also a dilemma. Also, keep in mind if you're using nails, brass will end up wearing very nicely, very evenly alongside the heels and any other materials, where steel will end up lasting longer than the other materials, so you may end up with sharp points. So just bear that in mind if you decide you want to go that route with using like a silver nail. It looks more nicer in maybe your type of scenario or shoe that you have, but it may look a little funny. But that, again, that's something I've noticed about the original JR ones, the Dovetail and the Basic or Classic, where with the Vibram variant, because they're using the SBR material, again, that's my assumption, SBR, just because from what I can understand with sanding it, gluing it, and how it sticks and everything, it works phenomenally. I mean, these ones, you don't need to have nails in. At that point, the nails really become more decorative, and I like adding the nails. It looks nice. But if you want it plain, it might be better for you to go for this JR Vibram combo heel here. Might not be as elegant for you as the Dovetail, but it still has a nice enough class and everything, and if you don't want the nails in there, these hold up very well. I stuck these in the oven for quite a while, and just to see how things peel up, they hold up significantly better against that kind of heat. Also, that's one thing that you can keep in mind too. If you're in an environment where it's very humid, like say Florida, for example, that it's humid, it's hot out there, you got drastic changes, this might be a better route for you to go. Here in Colorado, we have drastic weather changes. I mean, yesterday it was in the 70s. Today, I think it was in the 90s. So it kind of jumps around, and we have all sorts of things. So you pretty much can go with whatever option with these ones, and you're still going up against the elements here in Colorado. But if you have a little more consistent type of weather where it's kind of medium temperature, not too bad ever. I mean, doesn't rain constantly or doesn't snow constantly. I mean, you can stick to the Dovetail heels or the Classics the whole time through, where here in Colorado, it's good to have a little bit of variety. Maybe you want a pair of heels with just the Classic on there, maybe you want the Dovetail on another pair and the other one with the Vibram, and you can just alternate depending on the weather. So just thought I'd mention that. But again, that's kind of what I've known, well, not known, that's what I've found out about these as far as personally using them the whole time and applying them onto shoes. It's kind of a world of difference. It's interesting to me because even cutting it too, we have that 5-in-1 table machine where we crank it with our hand. It cuts off all the excess material. There's a huge difference. There's huge difference between cutting these two, in other words. I mean, like night and day. I mean, I think I have to resharpen. If I did 10 pairs of these, I'd have to resharpen my blade on there. I could probably do maybe 15 or 18 pairs of these before I have to resharpen that blade again. That's ballpark estimate from what I've been able to tell. Again, cobblers have like extra senses about what we do, and so that's my ballpark estimate that if I did 10 pairs of these, I would stop doing any more cutting on that machine and sharpen up that blade. Where this one, I think I could push that 15 to maybe even 18 pairs mark type of thing. Pairs. We always talk in pairs basically, unless we're doing some kind of weird stitch work, in other words. But that's the general idea. So that kind of gives you an understanding of why these coming out of premium. Obviously, you can be creative. This one might look black on video. Again, it's beaten up. It was an experimental pair. But sometimes you want a different finish on there. Maybe you want to keep it neutral or something. There's a number of things that you can add nice features to. Have the, if I can grab it. I had the Magnani here. That was an experimental pair with stitching right there. Obviously, that one was kind of a bust because I didn't realize that that particular machine I used would do that kind of number on softer rubber like that. Hey, I'm experimenting, okay? This is one of our display pieces that we experiment and do whatever on, so maybe down the road I'll just replace it with something else. Who knows? Anyways, if you end up requesting for the stitch heels, I don't recommend it. Well, I don't know. I don't even want to say I'd recommend it on any of them, just because it looks beautiful, looks nice if you actually get it stitched, better than what that one turned out like. But my dilemma is with the Dovetail, because that's softer material, I'm more concerned about the stitches pulling too tight and ripping through it all. The Vibram heel I've yet to test out, but I think it might actually work out fairly okay with the Vibram. So if I get it done, obviously I'd say stay tuned for that, and we'll see if that works out. But I don't know if I'm going to test that out quite yet. We've got enough going on as is. So if I ever do, just keep an eye out for it. You'll see it either on our Instagram or Facebook, or even here on YouTube too. You can check it out. YouTube too. Sounds kind of funny, at least to me. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it answered a few questions. Again, there are options for combination heels, at least a couple here. Who knows? JR is starting to become very popular, and the company is growing even more significantly over the last couple of years, especially since there is a higher demand now for it. More and more people are starting to understand quality over quantity, so they are going after more of a JR type material, whether it's the soles or the heels or whatever it may be. There is a higher demand for it. JR leather, obviously it comes in at a premium cost no matter where you go around the world. Any brand that uses JR leather on their footwear, that price goes up immediately, a fair amount, in other words. And that's all due to the fact that JR is a premium grade material, but because of that also it does take a little extra to work with. It's a little harder, it's a little more durable, so it takes a little more effort to actually get it to work and cooperate properly. Otherwise, if we just slap it on and do it typically like a number of other heel type options and variants out there, maybe it would take down the cost, but still the grinding aspect alone on it takes a little effort, in other words. But it's all those fine details that you might not be able to see. Adjusting the heel block, heel base, whatever you end up calling it. We call it heel block majority, or heel base majority of the time. A lot of you call it heel block, heel base, one of those, okay? But you might not notice it, okay? But if we don't do that adjustment of that pitch and height and everything, oh, you're gonna notice it. Trust me, you're gonna notice it. I have seen it. It looks painful. I mean, just painful. So bear that in mind, that if you're shopping at your local cobbler and you see that they got JR combination heels, whether it's a Vibram, the Dovetail, the classics again in the 6mm, you don't really need to mess around with changing that angle, pitch, or height. But these other ones, ask your local cobbler, do you adjust the heel block or the heel base to accommodate that heel? If they say, why do I need to do that or any of that, yeah, you might not want to risk your shoes going there. You might have to go check the other guy down the street. But majority of the people anyways, majority of the cobblers out there that use JR, they know what's up. It's not a cheap heel to stock, okay? It's not cheap whatsoever for us to even keep in stock. So investing that kind of money for a small cobbler shop, they better know what they're doing. It's not worth the risk. In other words, hundreds of dollars for dozens of pairs or whatever. And I can't tell you the exact math right now, and I don't know what it is, but all I know is when we make orders of it, we make orders with other things, and I'm assuming it's a few $100 just to have a handful of pairs come in. So just to give you an idea. But anyways, before I keep babbling on, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully this one ended up shorter than most of my other ones. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Any additional details you want to know, I'd be happy to answer however I can. Just go to our website, CobblersPlusCO. All of our contact information is on there. Our phone number, our email address. You can contact us through the website, or if you're local here in the Denver area, swing on by. We'll be happy to chat and help however we can. Otherwise, leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Always appreciate that. Hit the notification bell icon if you're already subscribed. If you're not, subscribe. subscribe and hit that notification bell icon as well to be notified when we have additional videos coming out. We're trying to make sure to keep on track with all the videos, but there's a lot of things going on because we are still technically setting up after the move, but working and setting up at the same time definitely takes a little longer than we anticipated and hoped for. But hey, what can we do? At least we're in a new shop, and this looks a little bit nicer, doesn't it, compared to my typical videos and stuff. So if you like the setup this way, I'll probably stick to it instead of going back to the workbench. If you like my Soul Talk Sundays, at least the recraft videos, obviously I have to do them back there, but I can do the Soul Talk Sundays here at this shine bar. This is what it's supposed to be, but I keep commandeering it. Anyways, again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.